Hi, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Kim King. I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing at HYCU, and I'm here to talk to you today a little bit about cyber resilience in the SaaS era. I'll start today with telling you a little bit about myself. We will talk about the evolution of IT and why it's so much more important to protect, so much more difficult to protect your data today. Talk about what you can do about this, and we will end with a quick overview of HYCU and our data protection service, HYCU Protege. A little bit about me. I started my career in healthcare on the patient care side. This was right around the time when electronic medical records were gaining traction. There was a general understanding, and it was reinforced to me that it was important to keep customer data safe and protected with all of the HIPAA trainings I had to do. But there wasn't a full understanding of the implications of not protecting data. When I transitioned into technology, I started working at Rackspace right after they launched their AWS business, and I worked on that business. This was during the evolution of cloud computing, when businesses were starting to realize the cloud's impact on their transformation strategy. After leaving Rackspace, I joined Snow Software during the dawn of the end user era, where business units started procuring technology and end users began purchasing SaaS on company credit cards. And there was a huge shift towards more widespread use of technology across the organization by end users. Today, I'm at HYCU, focused on hybrid and multi-cloud data protection. And unfortunately, we are right in the middle of the age of ransomware. The situation that you all are in today is pretty crazy. Today, IT environments are more complex than they've ever been, and organizations have data spread out all over the place. These first two stats are probably not going to be very surprising to you. Almost everybody is using hybrid or multi-cloud infrastructure these days. The stat that is probably going to be surprising to you, that was very surprising to me, is the number of SaaS applications that organizations use today, which is now up over 200. What does this really mean for you and your ability to manage and protect all of those data sources? That's probably the only thing that you really care about right now. So I love this analogy. Our CEO, Simon Taylor, came up with this, and I think it's a really fitting analogy for how complex it's gotten to protect all of the data within your environment. I'm going to ask you to imagine that your IT environment is a die. And let's think about that die in 2005. Each side of this die is a data source. In 2005, it's pretty straightforward. Almost everything is on premises. You can assign somebody to protect each of these data sources, each side of the die, and that's a pretty good strategy for protecting your IT environment. You move forward to 2020, and this is a 100-sided die, so less than half of the number of SaaS applications that businesses are using today. You think about trying to put somebody in front of each side of this die to protect each of these data sources, and it becomes pretty hard to imagine how a modern IT organization would be able to do that. Fast forward a few more years, and it's just chaos. There's data all over the place. The number of data sources that you're being asked to protect has increased exponentially, and it's a virtually impossible task to protect all of these data sources. About this time in the presentation is when CIOs or IT leaders really start to question this. They say things like, I've done a really good job of ensuring that I know it's running inside my organization. There's no way my organization is using this much technology that I don't know about. We can relate to that firsthand because as a small company, we started to look into the SaaS applications that we were using, and we were pretty blown away to see how many applications a small organization like HYCU was using. So let's dive into how IT and applications have evolved and really think through where all of that SaaS usage is coming from. Again, 20 years ago, almost everything was on premises. So there was good visibility and control into all the applications in the company because they were likely sitting in your data center. Fast forward 10 years and public cloud and SaaS vendors were born. You're still protecting everything on premises, and you have good visibility into those workloads, but some of the applications and data have shifted outside of your control. Fast forward 5 more years, and the public cloud providers started creating additional services: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, database as a service. In addition to these new as a service cloud services, you're now seeing more SaaS usage, with even more data and applications sitting outside of your control. Excuse me. Looking at the situation today, that SaaS bucket has just exploded. You still have on-premises data and applications. You still have infrastructure as a service, the platform as a service, the database as a service. But when you look at that SaaS bucket and all of the potential things that your organization could be using, maybe your marketing team's using Marketo, Gong, or Chorus AI for recording sales calls, Salesforce for opportunity data, Carta for managing options, Bamboo HR, Workday for HR. When you really start looking at all of these SaaS applications, it becomes pretty apparent that the number of applications being used is likely higher than you were aware of. Having some visibility into SaaS usage is the first step to protecting this data. Another aspect of the situation that's troublesome is the very common misconception about how this data is protected, what's protected, and who's responsible. It's pretty clear cut when you look at on-premises data and applications. The data sits in the business's physical environment, and it's the business's responsibility to protect that. Almost everybody realizes that they need to back up that data and ensure that it's recoverable. The misconception comes in when we start to look at all of these SaaS apps and cloud services, the IaaS, the PaaS, the DBaaS. There's a very common misconception that the vendor is responsible for protecting that data and that they have it backed up somewhere, so it'll be recoverable when you need it. When we were starting to do research on this problem and the magnitude of this challenge, we actually reached out to quite a few of our SaaS vendors that we use, as well as some of the other leading SaaS vendors in adjacent industries. We asked a simple question. We said, we accidentally deleted some data. Could you walk us through how to recover it? Pretty unanimously, across the board, actually, we got responses mostly from legal, and they said that they couldn't help. Usually they referenced a section of the contract describing their version of the shared responsibility model, that they were responsible for ensuring that their service is secure, but that it's the customer's responsibility to ensure that the data within the app is secure. That means that all of the data that you're using, all of the data that's residing in those as a service apps and cloud services, which amounts to nearly 80% of business critical data, is not protected. Let's think about those implications in the context of some of the trends we're seeing around ransomware. We're now seeing ransomware attacks occur every 11 seconds. And this stat was from several months ago, so it's probably even more frequent than that now, unfortunately. The duration of downtime after an attack is up to over 20 days. And when you look at the total cost of a data breach, it's up over $4 million. Combining all of this, the increasingly complex IT environments, all of the data sources that you're being asked to protect, with the evolving threat landscape, ransomware being a lot easier to procure. You can actually go on the dark web and purchase ransomware as a service for $100, which is terrifying. It creates the perfect storm, and it makes it so much harder for IT to protect their data. So far, this has been a lot of gloom and doom. So now let's shift to think about what you can do to ensure that all of these workloads are protected, to put yourself in the best place to succeed. First and foremost, understand your risk. Catalog your IT landscape, not just the things that are owned by IT, but also what SaaS apps the business is using across the board. Get an understanding of which ones are protected and which ones aren't. This next point seems pretty self-explanatory, but protect what you can. And when you're protecting these sources, look for secure ways to protect them. Ensure that you're using immutable air-gapped backups so that attackers can't get to the data and encrypt it. And so that data will be recoverable when you need it. And lastly, look for ways to future-proof your data protection strategy. Today, there isn't one organization that's capable of protecting everything in your environment, but there are organizations who can protect more of these as-a-service apps and cloud services in addition to your public cloud and on-premises data center workloads. And I'm proud to say that HYCU is one of those organizations. At HYCU, we've created HYCU Protege, which is a single data protection service built to deliver integrated data protection for hybrid and multi-cloud environments. And we do this across public clouds, private clouds, and on-premises data centers, as well as SaaS and as-a-service apps and cloud services. HYCU Protege does cover more SaaS and as-a-service cloud services than any other provider in the market. And it's actually the first and only data protection service that was built to be able to scale to protect all of the world's thousands of applications. And the way that we've done this is with our cloud. So in February, we launched our cloud. Our cloud is a low-code development platform for data protection. And what we've done with our cloud is we've basically opened up our proprietary data protection technology to enable SaaS vendors, ISVs, even freelance developers to build backup and recovery for their app in days as opposed to months or years. Each of the modules that's built using our cloud is secured and certified by HYCU and becomes available for customers to purchase through the HYCU marketplace. What does all of this mean for you? So in short, it means that you can quickly and easily access comprehensive data protection via the HYCU marketplace. So this includes all of those SaaS and as-a-service cloud services that we talked about. It also means that for SaaS and as-a-service, you'll get access to automated one-click backups that can be set up in minutes with built-in policies that are super easy to customize. Each data source protected with HYCU Protege also has granular recovery capabilities. So if you think of Jira, for example, you can recover a specific epic or a specific task, in addition to the option to restore an entire project if needed. And one of my favorite features about HYCU Protege is rGraph. With rGraph, you can get complete visualization of your data estate to see data sprawl and to spot unprotected data. That is it for the presentation today from me. If you're interested in getting started with HYCU today, a great place to start is with our R-score assessment. This will help assess your readiness to recover in the event of accidental deletion, a ransomware attack, a disaster. We have a self-assessment that's available directly through the link you see here, as well as an in-depth consultative engagement. Both of those are completely free. And you can access both of those options via the link here. And with that, it was my pleasure to talk to you today. And thank you so much for joining us.